great example that it doesn't matter what kind of game it is, spring game, SEC game, you name it, that the team that can win at the line of scrimmage and run the football has the best chance of winning, and today was evidence of that. It doesn't matter how many fancy guys you got at the skill position, you better be a physical football team. And the White came in, heavy underdog. Orange was confident, talking smack, had all the skill, and the White went blue collar on him, punched him right in the mouth. And it was fun to watch. So, but I'm, you know, obviously glad nobody got hurt, and I was real proud about how we ended up spring. I felt like everybody on our team improved, our units improved. We still have a long way to go, long way, but we're heading in the right direction. So that's really all I got.
Eric, based on Thursday, when I asked you about what you look for on Saturday, I sort of know what you're going to say. Tyler struggled the way he did throw. Is there any concern for you today coming out of this?
You know what I said Thursday. If Tyler would have gone 27 and 30, all right, for 300, I'd have said, yeah, we're doing good. And if he would have gone 5 for 30, which is what he did, I'd say, well, it's just a spring game, it doesn't matter. And that's the one day that the coaches become fans. So we wanted, we're having our cake and eating it too. There was a lot of reasons he wasn't on. It starts with him. He wasn't. You know, I think he went in a little bit confident, feeling good about the matchups. And when you're not on edge, you're never going to perform. And then there were some serious mismatches in protection that I think affected him early. And then, you know, and then once it gets going bad early, you got to get that run game settle in. I think their head coach kept wanting to sling, you know. So that's what we got.
From that fan perspective, then, can you at least be encouraged that you have a little security in the way Matt played and seemed to lead?
Yeah, and look, that's why I've never wanted, you know, when all that talk, and I've talked to Matt, that's why I kept saying we're going to need him. And he's going to have to go in next year at some point when it's a football game. I promised I wouldn't, you know, last year I kind of got after Jeff Francis a little bit for how he looked out there, and I promised I wouldn't do it again, but the last drive, he throws a pick 6. They're in field goal range on the flag football game. So, I mean, it has to get discussed. I feel like I'd violate professional integrity if I didn't at least acknowledge it.
You talked about the White being the more physical team. How much a part of that was the 2 surprise award winners, Bullard and Hood, and being physical?
See, now you're putting me on the spot because I get confused on who was on what team.
They were both on the White.
Bullard and Hood?
Yeah.
Yeah. They had great springs. They were both named Surprise of the Spring. You know, of course, Alex, he was a surprise just because, you know, he landed on our program and we didn't know much about him. And he really just played great. And when Jawan went down, he played center, he played tackle. He's going to really help us. Glad he's here. And Dan Hood, we moved from offense. He was struggling at O-line. We needed some help on the D-line, and he ended up really spring as our first tackle. So that was good, and they must have set the tone. But who were the other? Those were the 2 surprises. Yeah.
Another muffin punt, Derek. I can't imagine that issue.
Well, Gordon, in all fairness, he has not been back there all spring. All the 3 guys that were working together on punt return were on the other team. It just so happened. So we had to throw the poor guy out there and say good luck with the wind and everything else. And so I was happy there was only 1 muff punt.
Derek, on the Orange team, I guess, had 1 good drive in terms of running the ball, and White did a little bit more consistent. Do you leave spring feeling like you made some progress there in your running game?
I do, especially on the offensive line. And I felt like Torn, you know, y'all saw some things about Torn today. He's running, he's solid. He's having a good spring. Rajon's doing a little bit better. Everybody improved a little bit. So, but you really see the offensive line starting to play a little bit. I mean, if you noticed, Chaney only ran in one direction. That's what I noticed.
Not enough, though.
Yeah. It's only because I made him throw it. He would have run the power 62 times. I got mad at him in the first quarter. He ran his 5th power in a row, and I said, can we just throw it a little bit? So the only reason they were throwing it because I made them.
You kind of given, after each of the scrimmages, sort of a general consensus of what you have. When you leave spring, what is the opinion of your team right now?
Well, improved, but a long way to go. And there's some areas where, you know, we feel like we got good enough players to continue to develop, and then there's other areas where, you know, we're going to need some help. And that's when June comes around. We're going to have another 20. Let's see, we'll have about 20 guys, 20 more guys. We had 6 in here mid-year, right? So we'll have another 20 guys pop in the door in June, and we'll train them all summer and see how they can fit in and help us, and we're going to need their help. We need their help.
When you say you have a long way to go, what's an area you're most focused on as you head into those summer workouts and fall camp?
The football team, meaning everything. I mean, we're not good enough anywhere right now. When you say competing for an SEC championship, which is what we need to be doing here in this program, it's hard to say there's one position that is ready to compete for an SEC championship. So it's everything. I mean, there is no one area.
Coach, where do you, I mean, just overall depth-wise, with just bodies, I mean, do you feel better? I mean, do you feel like you're getting there as you, when you talk about bucking the 20 in?
We're deeper than we were a year ago. You know, I think when we get these 20 more guys, hopefully they'll you know, the real question is going to be how many are ready to help us this year. And they may not be ready the first game, but we're going to keep developing them. But I'm not sure we're going to have where we can say we have depth until another year from now. We just don't.
Derek, the receivers, can you talk a little bit about them, Matt and Derek and Justin today?
Well, it's just hard to, I mean, I can talk about their spring. You know, it's hard to really evaluate some things out there just because of what we're doing on offense and defense and who they're going against. Justin got a little frustrated out there. But they've all had a good spring. Derek and Justin, you know, probably Derek has made the most progress from where he was at the end of the season to where he is now. And Justin, you know, where he's got to improve his strength levels. And, you know, that's a serious part of his game that's got to get better because so he doesn't get pushed around out there. And Matt's still got a long way to go.
Well, what was your impression of Worley, and do you think y'all gonna probably redshirt him, or y'all make?
We don't make any decisions on redshirt guys until at least halfway through the next season. So we develop every freshman like they're gonna play, and we need them to play. And I still feel the same way about Justin as I did when we signed him. I think he's got a great future here. He did some nice things. He's incredibly intelligent and has a good investment in getting better, and he's gotten a little bit better every day, but he's got a long way to go, you know, to really grasp what we're doing offensively. But he certainly has all the skills you're looking for to be a good quarterback, and only time will tell.
Derek, you talk about developing players, and specifically the 6 guys that came in midterm. I mean, how much now that spring practice?
You know, Coleman did. You know, they went right at Coleman. And he went up there and covered Hunter. Nobody told him Hunter was a good player. You know, but what was your question, John? Sorry.
Just the benefit for those 6 guys being here now that spring camp's over, and then specifically, I guess, Marcus Jackson and Vincent Dallas, because they worked a lot with the one offense.
Yeah, and Justin. I think those 3 guys, and then Brendan. I mean, he's our second tight end right now. And we, you know, I wish all 26 guys would have come in mid-year. That would have really helped us. But it does. It gives them 8 weeks of lifting and running with the team, 4 weeks of spring practice, and then 2 more weeks of lifting. So, you know, what is that, 14 weeks? That's 14 weeks of training that they're ahead of the class they're in. That's huge. It's huge.
How much do you guys look at that when you're evaluating prospects?
Mid-years?
To be mid-years.
Well, what we do, and it starts with critical areas of need. You're really searching for mid-year guys, and we were last year. And, you know, we were trying to get some mid-year D linemen to help us. We got Marcus. That was big for us because that, you know, here he was. He's in the starting lineup right now. Him and Schofield are rotating. So we really wanted it on the O-line, D-line, got an O-line and didn't get a D-line mid-year guy. Wanted one in the secondary, we got Coleman. Wanted to get a quarterback, always helps to get quarterbacks, and got Justin. And needed a receiver because all the receivers are left. We got Vincent. So you really want them in your areas of need that you know you're going to need help in next fall. And, you know, we did in a lot of them, but I would have liked them at every position.
Derek, you alluded a second ago to Coleman not, you know, being aware of Justin Hunter and how good he is. Terry said something similar a couple of weeks ago that he doesn't ever seem fazed by matching up with guys.
Yeah, he's a competitor, you know, and that's what I loved about him. You know those guys in high school that play everything and they do everything? That was him. And it just says something about their competitive nature. And I think Justin's going to be a good, solid player. He's tough. He's physical. He's still light right now. He still has he don't know the difference between cover 2 and cover 3. But you know, that's okay. He'll get that. But he's got the right kind of intangibles, and he's instinctive. He's an instinctive player.
Eric, can you talk about Tony Williams today? You know, a little bit about his spring, kind of a guy we haven't heard a whole lot about.
Well, he was the only one with fresh legs because he hadn't done anything all spring. So that's what he's been out with a hamstring. So he came in there, you know, fresh-legged, ready to go, and barreled his way for some yards.
Defensively, again, it seemed like Brent Brewer was all over the place again. Just
Active.
talk about, you know, you've talked about him all spring, I guess, but just
He's
kind
been
of
active, you know, he has. And I think now his challenge is going to be what's his stamina. Can he play like that 12 games? You know, he was extremely disruptive in our first scrimmage. He disappeared in the second scrimmage. So that's, and listen, that's very common for young players. He's young, even though he's old. And that's our real challenge. This is, you know, it's very important we don't get enamored with flashes. You know, guy flashes a play, and all of a sudden he's a great player. And there is a huge difference between a guy that makes a good play or has a good game versus a guy who does it week in and week out, day in and day out. And we really don't have one player on our team who's shown a capability to do it day in and day out, week in and week out, that can do it for a whole season. So that's our challenge.
Is that more of a concern on defense right now, just because the?
It's a concern on both sides of the ball. Nobody on offense has either. You know, quarterback played 3 good games and 2 bad games. The O-lineman played a couple of good games and a bunch of bad games. I mean, nobody's played a good game for 12 games. Nobody. And, you know, you can't play a great game for 12 games, but you don't want to play bad games. So, I mean, that's the facts.
You talked about that early in the spring, about having your freshmen kind of get that sense of becoming every down players. Do you see them kind of grasp, kind of seize that, with the need to do that, and how much progress do you think they made?
I think they've made progress, but I don't think they grasp it right now. You know, what it means, and the intensity level, the mental intensity, the work ethic, and so we're just going to keep working on that. And hopefully over the next, what do we have, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, about 14 weeks before we report, you know, we can make another jump in how we work and how we recover and our ability to sustain.
Coach, I know the wind was a factor today, but how much confidence do you
This area is hammering me today. Y'all bringing nothing to it. Can't get a word in.
How much confidence do you leave with your kickers leaving spring, place kicker and punter?
Just like the rest of the guys, you saw some talent. I mean, Dar, you see the leg talent he brings. He can boot it, but he's got a lot of work to do. And then, you know, he's a typical freshman. He hits a couple of big bombs and he thinks he's pretty good. He goes out there and shines one. I mean, that's what you do. You know, what happened? Pilardi, you know, had a great spring up until today. yanked the field goal. They're talented. They are. They have good enough talent to be dependable players for us, and we just need to take that talent, develop them into guys we can count on.
Anything else, guys?
What would you say was your most encouraging development of the spring?
I think, you know, from where we were a year ago to where we are now, the development of the offensive line has been probably, you know, the most consistent. And you got to understand, we feel like we got some big, strong, athletic, and talented players there. You know, this time last year, we didn't even have an offensive line. We had a line that was going into the season with three snaps. I mean, 3 starts. Is that right? Yeah, Shaw. And he had 3 starts and they benched him. So it wasn't like it was the last 3 games. So we made a lot of progress there, but we're not where we need to be. But that's, you know, when you say, okay, we got enough bodies, and let's develop them. We're getting there on the offensive line.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, guys, appreciate y'all coming.